See.
Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to continue in chapter 41. We were learning about 3 modes of the brain, which helps us understand the modes that we have in our brain actually help us understand reality and parallel universes that are right here. And generally, there are 3 general parallel universes. We live in the world of action, the world of pictures, and then there is a parallel universe which is one step deeper, which is the world of vibrations, which is like audio, and this is called Yetzirah. And then there is the world of meaning, which is the world of Bria. That is the world of meaning. And what we've started to speak about is the world of pictures. And basically, there's different levels of pictures. There is just seeing a picture, like a snapshot of everything, like a child sees a picture. And then what happens over time is a child starts differentiating between different things he sees in his mental picture, similar to how the modern digital cameras are able to spot faces when the old cameras weren't able to spot and recognize faces. So the same thing, that's what a child does. They're able to differentiate. And then a level above that is that they're able to form pictures or visualize a end state, a new scenario, plan a new scenario, how it's going to look, and then implement that scenario. And that is very advanced. Then there is in pictures a very low level where a person doesn't even have the control. They're able to differentiate between things, so they don't have the control of the order which the objects present themselves, and that's in a dream. So basically, it looks a little bit chaotic. So that is sort of the level of experience that we experience this world that we live in right now, which is the time of exile, where the pictures are a little bit chaotic and we don't understand the connection between things. Whereas in the Geula and the redemption, we're going to have a much more meaningful experience in this very world which we live in now, because we're going to be able to see the connections between the objects and that there's a storyline, and it's not just the chaos of objects that go throughout our day. It's actually very meaningful, every object, everything that we see. So we will experience everything on a much deeper level. And that's what we spoke about last week. Now let's speak about audio, which is the next parallel universe, the world of Yetzirah. So how audio functions, it also has a basic and advanced. There's hearing audio, and then there's being able to create audio, being able to create audio, like deciding how you're going to speak before you say it. So hearing audio and recognizing the words that are being said is a lower level than being able to create what you're going to say. And the lowest level would be just to hear voices and not to be able to differentiate words. It's just a bunch of noise. And then the next level when hearing a language is you start being able to separate words and clearly recognize the words that are being said. And the next level after that is being able to say those words. You know, if you learn a new language, just because you understand doesn't mean you know how to speak, right? So it's definitely more advanced to be able to speak. It doesn't mean, just because you understand doesn't mean you can actually put the words together in a cohesive manner. You may have perfect understanding, but you may not be able to put the words together in a way that a native speaker will be able to recognize that you have a mastery of the language. So in the world of audio, there are levels. Similarly, in the spiritual parallel universe, there are levels of experience. There's actually many levels of experience when entering into that parallel universe. So let's read it inside. Oh, before going inside, there's also going to be the world of meaning, which is the world of souls, human souls. And there's also levels in meaning. There's also telepathic communication. and that is like a lower level. It's not even meaning, it's just being able to think clearly certain words. It's part of the world of meaning, but it's not really meaning because it's more just a clear thought. That's a lower level. A higher level is thinking what exactly the words mean. And then there's levels in that. You could have higher levels and higher levels in the same words. So let us go and read inside.
Rabbi Herrick, one second, could you explain the difference between when you say the world of action is seen as the world of action, then you also say it's the world of pictures?
Well, yeah, because the world of action is a bunch of pictures moving in a certain way. So basically changing the, when we pick something up and move it from point A to point B, we've just changed the picture. So that's a very big focus in the world. It's very visual, our world of action. Mainly audio is like a deeper level. It's like audio is like how, you know, you don't see audio. It's a deeper experience in this world. The most basic experience of this world is when something moves, it changed from position A to position B. It's a new picture. So that's a very big focus of this world. I mean, you can actually see by people's eyes what is their dominant preferred way of processing information. So a lot of people, including myself, are visual people. And when I visualize, I'm going to look up. It's interesting, I'm going to look up. When I am processing audio, either listening, remembering audio, or creating audio, I'm going to look horizontal left to right. And this is like NLP. If I'm going to look left to right, and I'm going to look one way if I'm creating audio, if I'm using my deeper ability, and I'm going to look another way if I am remembering audio. Yeah, that's why you could figure out if by speaking to me, if I'm saying, you can always figure out if somebody's saying the truth by the way they move their eyes. Are they going to the place where they usually go when they're creating audio, or they go to the place where they're remembering audio? So you know if they're remembering something that happened or making up on the spot, because the eyes are going to be in a different position horizontally when they're doing that. And then there is, when I think meaning, so there's two types of ways of processing meaning. So some people understand things in a very intellectual way, and other people understand things in a very like feeling way. And perhaps even feeling is maybe a deeper experience. But in both cases, a person's going to look down. Person's going to look down to a different place if they're processing feeling, and they're going to look down to a different place if they're processing comprehension. Usually they're going to look down to the left when they are processing numbers and understanding. It's a very intellectual way of processing the meaning. And they are going to look down to the right if they are processing the experience of it. So a person that is very like good at gymnastics and coordination, they're also producing a feeling experience. So they're probably going to look down to the right when they're experiencing that. Now, you shouldn't really, you make people really uncomfortable if like you stare in their eyes, trying to figure out what they're saying. So I don't. Like unless I like pick it up naturally, I don't really pay attention to that. But sometimes I do pay attention to people going down, down, down. So I understand them better because I know they're processing feeling, they're processing meaning, and I can see that. And if I see their eyes going just back very horizontally, they may be musical, like they prefer to live in the world, to experience the world on a like a Yetzirah level. And it's all about audio, it's about sound. They probably have talent in music. If their eyes are going up as they are speaking to me, I know they are picturing things, and they're probably very practical, practical in certain aspects. Like they know how to make, how to present things that they should look good. And there's a lot of people like that. Most people, I would assume, tend to be dominant on visually. It's like more. It's like a deeper talent to process the world as sounds. And they're gonna not like the people that their eyes go like on a horizontal level. They're probably musical, and they don't like a lot of noise. They don't like to be in areas of a lot of noise. That's what I've noticed about them. They're more Yetzirah type people naturally. The people that look down, they're either like very intellectual, or they may be very good athletically, because they're very in touch with their center of balance. They're in touch with how their body feels. They're very tactile. So it actually, a tactile person could be experiencing the world actually on the deepest level. It could be like from the world of Bria, and they're really like where the rubber meets the road type people, but yet they're experiencing the world on a very deep level, and the level of meaning. And person can train themselves to experience the world in other ways, but I'm speaking about what people's preferred method is. And sometimes people, it's for certain subjects, it's better to use other methods. Like if you're trying to remember spelling, it's not a good idea to go into the tactile part of the brain, because it's probably not going to work as well. You're probably better off looking up and remembering the letters how they look. So sometimes people that are trying to remember visual things, but they're very talented kinesthetically, very tactile. It's not, they may be extremely talented, just they're not going to do well in that subject unless they choose to change their modality, consciously. So let's continue reading inside, because it's really interesting to see this on people and to experience the world on many levels. And it sort of gets us to understand the parallel universes that exist over here, and we do have some sort of connection to those parallel universes. While we're living in this world of action, we are able to intuitively have a connection with the higher worlds. So the level of audio in thought, speech inside thought, this is basically thinking about the connection of letters that somebody else is speaking. So somebody else is creating the audio, and I am recognizing what they're saying. This is voice recognition, and this is shezeu lamata me'esa amachshava shechesev ba'atzmai b'lo shmias dibur zulase. This is a lower level than me thinking words, the sound of words in my head without hearing somebody else, because I have to create audio in my head is a deeper skill than just to recognize audio in your head, right? It's a better computer if the computer is able to speak succinct sentences, but for the computer to be able to recognize what you're saying and transcribe, that is something that an AI can do quite well. Example, when you listen and think about the letters Adon Olam, master of the world. Let's read this properly. Adon Olam. That's the proper pronunciation. So the master of the world. Hare ofen siruf miyuchad kazeh atzmei kasher shemea b'machshavtei dibur zulase. So the way this thing presents itself in my mind when I hear somebody else say Adon Olam, right? Kishemedaber Adon Olam, when somebody says those words, Ein zerak shenechach oifis hadibur zulase. What happens is that an impression was engraved from somebody else's audio, b'machshavta, in my thoughts. Shulamatam me'esias adon adon olam, which this is a lower skill than being able to make that sound machshavtes atzmei in my own mind. If I'm able to produce that thought of the sound of adon olam in my own mind, that is a greater skill. V'kach kol machshava shecheshev eich ledaber terem shemedaber. So too, any time that I think how to speak before actually speaking, umiyad medaber, and immediately speak afterwards, nikra dibur sheba machshava. This is called a speech inside thought. So when I'm producing my speech, I am actually immediately before I speak producing in my mind. There is a speech in my thoughts which I am producing, which then that becomes the command to actually speak. So thought, speech inside thought transfers to thought in speech. In other words, the thought that drives my speech. So my speech, my audio abilities inside my thinking abilities then become the thinking abilities that control my speech. Because from when I think how to speak, that becomes the way I think when I start speaking. Mashirata, what I wanted, b'machshava, in my thoughts, ledaber, to speak, etc. Mashenken amadgrega hagimel. Now, the highest level, which is the third parallel universe, is the third level, shehi machshava sheba machshava. This is thought inside thought. Hainu, this means machsheves atzmei. Let's move the page up. Hainu machsheves atzmei kasher choshev tzrufe eisies adon olam. My own thought. One second. I'm in the middle of the. Can we put the recording on pause for a second? Okay, so let's continue and let's start again the thought inside thought. Madrega Gimel, the third level, Shu Machshava Sheba Machshava, is thought inside thought. Hainu Machsheves Atzmei, Machshava Sheba Machshava, 2 lines down from that. Yeah, Hainu Machsheves Atzmei, it's my own thought. Keshecheshev Tzrufe Eisius Adain Olam, when a person thinks the connection of the letters of Adain Olam, Boloi Dibur, without audio. Or when I think about anything else, b'tzirufim shoinim, with different ways of connecting, shenikra oisias hamachshava, which is called the letters of thought, like different connections which create different meanings, which is called oisias hamachshava, the letters of thought. However, even thought inside thought, in other words, at the highest level, the biggest, our deepest ability as humans has 2 levels. Ha'alef, the first level, the first level is lower, and it really belongs to the lower level of speech inside thought. Why? es haskala. This is when I'm not thinking at all the meaning. Haskala means the meaning, right? Like the word psychology, haskala. We're not thinking about the meaning, vakavana, and the intent, shiva acs, in that is given over with the letters etz atzmei, etz atzmam, or whatever themselves, v'kaya gavna, and similarly, shehu inyan machshavas. Whoa, v'kaya gavna. What is the intent? Shehu inyan machshavas hamamshala. Adon olam means master of the world. So that means I need to think about the idea of government, va'adnus, and mastery, being a master of something. Ve'ein le'machshava klal bezeh. However, on the lower level of thought, inside thought, I don't even think about the meaning. Rak tzirufe oisius, the aleph dalas. All I'm thinking about is how the letter aleph and dalas join together, sheba adain, in the word adain, to make the sound ad, right? Master, the Kahai Governor, and this lower level of thought inside thought, that's what it's all about. Hagam shul beloy dibur, even though I'm not going to, I don't plan on making this audio, right, to actually sound anything, shul amayla mishmias dibur esatzme, which this is higher than this is a higher ability than producing sound. Mikol makom, because I have to have clear thought. Mikol makom nikra gam zeh b'shem dibur shebamachshava. Nevertheless, if I'm just thinking certain words, this is really still part of the world of audio. It's considered speech, inside thought. V'ke'inyan, and this is like the idea v'kara zeh el zeh, how the angels speak to each other in prayer. We mention every day, and it's very beneficial to mention this every day, because when we mention this every day, it allows alignment from our animal soul to be aligned with the angels, which, because our animal soul comes from the angels, and when we mention them calling each other, right? So basically, what's happening is that when the angels speak to each other, it's like telepathy. In other words, if you want to know how they speak, is kamai they actually use the same letters that we would use when we think in our head, and basically they have sensory ability to pick up the what somebody else is thinking. In other words, even the thought creates a certain like vibration, whatever you want to call it, and they able to pick that up by thinking those words. So if I think Adon Olam or the Kara Zeh El Zeh, I call to each other. If I think that, the other angel is able to pick that up. Shayachol Adam Likre. Let's go further down the page. Shaya Yachol Adam Likre Zulasa Beshmei, that a person is able to call another person in his name. So if I think in my head, Rabbi Smith, right, in the way it works by the angels, if I want them to pick that up, I just need to stop quietly and think Rabbi Smith quietly in my head. B'machshava. Mashakara, and you would actually be able to pick that up. If you, like on the angel world, you'd be able to pick that up. Oh, you just said Rabbi Smith, right? B'dibur, just like we do it in words, we're able just to think clearly in your head, and the other angel is able to pick those words up. But we don't need to, it's not about meaning, it's about clearly thinking that word the way it would sound audibly. We think that in our heads. And that is the way the speech of the angels works. It's like a telepathy. And also the famous story that we learned about the two girls that were speaking to each other, that were in the cemetery, that were buried in the cemetery, and they were speaking to each other. So they were speaking to each other using clear, audible thought. and the rabbi that was there was able to pick that up and recognize that telepathy and be able to understand that what's the implications of what they said to each other in his own head. Shein nishma adam, but it's not heard to a man through the ears. Men, so you have to be really special to be able to pick up that telepathy, but it is clear thought, right? Maybe nowadays computers are going to be enough developed to pick up the brain activity of clear thinking. But this is thought on a lower level. This is really almost like audible thought, like it's written in another place. Base and the higher level of thought, this is the real one. Hu hamitis is what we call real thought. Means thinking the meaning shela inyan of the concept using those letters that once he thinks those letters, he immediately starts thinking. When you think meaning, immediately the words come up that will carry that meaning. In other words, that the way a person wordsmiths, right? Wordsmiths, the way a person wordsmiths is according to the intent of the meaning. If this is one, if you have one intent, so then automatically a person's going to come up with a certain combination of intelligently smith words. If such is an intent, so such a words are going to carry that meaning. For example, if a person intends with their intellect to speak about a specific thing, like a business, or like a trade agreement, or adnos, or if they're thinking about rulership, adnos, like God, divine rulership, so then if a person will think different words, depending on the intent, dafka specifically. In other words, the intent gives birth to the order of words. Let's go further. Nikra machshava, we need to look at the next page. Nikra machshava, this is called thought. Sheba machshava, thought inside thought, real thought in thought. Shua nikra kayach machshava, this is what we mean, the power of thought, lakshav kolinian, to actually think of ideas, davar but some specific idea, but tirufim shainim, using different groups of words, kamay kayach hadibur, and this is like the power, ladaber, the power of speech is to speak, kol mashayirtza, whatever you want to speak, kamay sheizbar, as I'm going to explain further on. But it really should be very clear thought to be able to clearly capture the ideas. Vihi bechinas kli lemachshava iyunis hanikra machshava saseichel atzmei. This highest level of thinking is actually the thinking which is going to be able to capture deeper and deeper levels, which is basically machshava saseichel atzmei, thinking about the intellectual idea itself. Hanal beis mem, like we explained before in chapter 40. When we were speaking about the expression of application is the emotional ability of bina, of comprehension. So bina, comprehension, can be objective, whereas tavuna is the emotions, which is subjective, and the value of that is that it can be applied. And Malchus, the Tuna, means the expression of the subject. And that is thought of thought, expressing the subject matter in the mind. This highest level of thought depends on the ability of focus. So I don't know if a computer could ever reach this level. I don't know. I doubt it. Because you need to have one gift, which is called das, the ability to focus and to blotch out other things. And it depends on the type of das the person has. That's the type of meaningful thought they're going to give birth to. And that's why it is said in the rabbis, in the holy text, it's written down that a child doesn't have a machshava. What we mean doesn't have thought. We mean the highest level of thought. Why they don't have a controllable thought. Delafi katnas daite, kahu katnas machshava, because according to his smallness of his ability to focus on something, that is going to be the meaning, the greatness of his thought. It's going to be a small, if he has a small ability of focus, then his meaning is also going to be very poor. I mean, think about adults nowadays that they're not able to focus for a very long time. So therefore, their meaningful thought won't be very profound. Only if a person has the ability to focus on a long time on one subject matter will their thought have a profound meaning. And so if a child is not able to focus on one thing for a long time, the meaning is going to be katnas, is going to be very, very surface meaning. It's going to be very small. Below tzirufim klal, it's not going to even have anything intelligent wordsmithing in his head. He's not going to have any intelligent wordsmithing in his head because he doesn't stay long enough on one subject to be able to have any meaningful ideas come up, because he doesn't have a proper das. He doesn't have a proper attention to stick to one thing. Aval gadlus hadas, but a greatness of focus, who are maybe the machshava, that brings to a person to have thought, be ribuy tzirufim shonim, with different ways, different formations, wordsmith formations, different ways of expressing the same idea, and according to the depth of the focus, focusing on the core concept, so too will be the profoundness of the thought, deep delving thought canal, like we've explained earlier, right at the beginning even. Now we can understand the verse of that we say, I believe it's in Tilim, how deep are your thoughts? What's those words? Be'erach emek hamusag debina. It really depends on the value of the deep core concept of comprehension. So, meaning to say that God can have the same thoughts, but they're going to be layers of meaning depending on the person's ability to focus on the core concept. So the deeper a person can focus on the core concept, the deeper layer of meaning will be uncovered to that person. So in Torah study, you can have a 5-year-old child studying a certain verse, and get meaning from that, and he's going to be satisfied with that meaning. And the same time, a 50-year-old is going to study the same thing, and since they have a better connection to the core concept of ideas, they're going to uncover a deeper layer of meaning in the same words. And that's what it means, ma ma'od, how deep are your thoughts? Because we can then read God's thoughts in what he has allowed us to know from the writings that he has given us. We can read those thoughts and see layers and layers of meaning, and it's actually will continue on because God's infinite. There's going to be infinite layers, and there's always going to be discovery in the same wordsmithed words, divinely wordsmithed letters. There will be more layers of meaning and more layers of meaning. It will never be boring. That's something very, very interesting, that it's never going to be boring. You can still discover new things and deeper things and more profound things in the same words, because how deep your thoughts are very deep, always getting more profound, never boring. So that's the end of this chapter 41. Rabbi Smith? Yeah.
How are you?
Baruch Hashem. Thank God. Baruch Hashem.
Awesome, great job. Let me stop the recording.